Welcome to Top of the Line. This is the podcast version of our YouTube show. New episodes every Monday and Friday where we talk about audio and hi-fi related themes.
If you have any requests for a future episode, send us an email, totl@abyssheadphones.com.
Kind of cool and rainy.
Yeah, it's humid too.
Yes, very humid.
I feel like like Miami over here lately in Buffalo, New York. So
it's only 79 though.
See, my new toy, I got a barometer that was from back in the day. I think it's from the 50s or something like that. Look at how they made barometers back then. And you could use the barometer to tell when it's going to rain or not, because the barometric pressure drops as the storm front's approaching, right? And it goes higher when it's sunny out.
The days of sniffing the dirt are over.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's gonna know what you're talking about.
Okay.
You can feel the grass, maybe?
No.
You grab the plant, a leaf on a tree, and tell what it's thinking. I'm going to start practicing that.
All right, you work on that.
Now we got a greenhouse going. I'm starting to figure out if I could touch a leaf on a plant, like, can you tell if it needs more water or whatever? I think it's kind of a variable by the plant.
Yeah.
Because once it's drooping, you're a little late,
It's
right?
too late, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually when I water.
That's the problem, It's that up and down thing. I don't think does too well for the plants. But
So we're doing a thing today?
But the thing today, the topic was, so a number of people keep asking about, like, what place, at what point is it hi-fi? I'm assuming like in an audio system, right, is what we're talking about. At what point is the system considered hi-fi? Or hi-fi, of course, stands for high fidelity, which has been a term that's been used since back in the tube days.
Yep. It's a term that's been around for quite some time, but kind of sort of where the line has evolved a fair bit over time. Because you look back in the day, 60s, 70s, the gear that was available then, today most people wouldn't consider it to be very good. For the most part, it's not good. There's some exceptions, but a lot of it's just nothing compared to today's standards.
Well, it is a evolving thing, because like you go back to this day, and you were just happy that it produced audio.
The Victrola.
That has a sound to it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe one of these days we'll have to do a little piece on that.
I guess at one point that was like high fidelity.
That was
it made audio. So
I think that came about from the 20s or so. Or I don't know when that unit is probably from the 20s, but that was the only fidelity.
Yeah,
right.
I don't even think they had radios yet. So
yeah, well, you go before radio, and what did you really have?
Yeah.
Well, it was live music.
Yeah, that's true.
It was nothing or actual people making music. So you could see the definition over time has evolved. We finally ended up with technology that allowed you to replay stuff at home. You could play whatever you wanted, but the quality has evolved over time, and mostly for the better. So that's good. But as a result, that kind of means the definition of what hi-fi is kind of changes. It seems like it's this arbitrary point where people determine more or less, you're far enough above the norm or the average that I would call that hi-fi. You really put care and finesse into your system to make it sound good.
Well, back to the Victrola, I'm thinking, I bet when people first got that and put it in their living room, I bet it brought a tear to their eye when they heard music playing in there, just like good hi-fi can today, where people say, makes them cry or whatever. I mean, you hear music all the time nowadays. It's easy to access and listen to in a car and everywhere, you name it. Somewhere there's a receiver to hear music, including your phones, right? Mm-hmm. But, most of that's not going to make you emotional listening to it, and that's probably a good gauge, in measurement, really.
I think that's reasonable enough, because what it really seems to be is nowadays, since people have such ready access to decent audio and it's so cheap, that doesn't really do it anymore, right? It's just so typical. It's so common.
It's like background music.
That it's just whatever. If you got some Bluetooth speaker or something like that that's $60, it makes audio. It sounds all right, but nobody would call it hi-fi, right? And I guess the threshold kind of evolves to basically always be something to the extent of when you're really putting effort into your system, when it's really above and beyond. So in the early days when something like that Victrola first came out, that was probably amazing because it was such an uncommon thing to be able to do it, right? It was almost like, compared to nothing, having people in your house playing music.
I mean, I remember back in the day when I heard my first CD player. I think it was like 83 or something like that. And I didn't buy it. It was my boss or something had one that was skipping or making noises. He said, here, take a look at this and see if you can do something with it. I'm like, never seen one of these before. And it had a bunch of pots in it. I just started turning things and tweaked it till it stopped skipping.
Right.
Because that's what I did. I tweaked things. But anyway, yeah, I think it was Money for Nothing, whatever thing. Anyone know?
Dire Straits.
Yeah, thanks, Dire Straits. Yeah, the first CD I heard was Dire Straits, and it was Money for Nothing. And it sounded really clear to me. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool because, I was accustomed to listening to FM radio, basically.
Right. Well, and vinyl, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, and vinyl, that's true. Yeah, that's true. It would have been the same thing. But this had such clarity to it that I never heard before. And I don't remember it making me cry or anything, but I thought, this is pretty cool. It had a really cool sound to it I wasn't used to. So,
I guess when that was a new thing, when CDs started to just come out, that probably could be considered hi-fi, probably made the threshold. Because it was so uncommon and was so much better than the other stuff you're used to, it was uncommon for you to hear this kind of fidelity. Unless you really put a lot of time and effort into your vinyl system, which seemed to be less common in those days, actually.
I mean, just think about it. You get this black box, you pop this shiny disc into it, and lo and behold,
makes great audio.
You can click through tracks like no problem.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, the ability to skip around easily.
Yeah.
So that was more convenient.
Because really, that was coming off the cassette.
Yeah.
And you couldn't skip shit on a cassette.
Well,
I mean, you basically
you can.
played
It just takes a while.
It was a hassle, yeah.
A lot of start and stop.
This is one step above reel to reel, basically.
Yeah.
But I think what we're kind of getting at is, I would go as far to say is if you're in a country that's, we'll call rather poor, and you don't have access to any of these things, right? You have very little. And then in that context, I could argue that even something like an $80 Bluetooth headset could be considered hi-fi. If it's in that climate, it's a very high-end premium luxury piece that's hard to come by, and it's very atypical for you to be able to hear this kind of fidelity. That, to some extent, could be considered, I think, hi-fi. I think it's really all about context.
Yeah.
Because
it's relative.
If you're living in the middle of nowhere, right, some village with 23 people in it, and you have access to nothing, you don't have internet, you don't have power, but something like that could be profound.
But then think about it. Like you would think in an area like that, they would be used to live music because that's all they would have.
True, yeah. Right.
Even if there was, even if they're blowing in a conch shell or something like that, it's still notes being played by human beings. And so now you got to wonder, would a headphone, even if it is like a simple Bluetooth,
I guess,
be considered better than that? Would it make you emotional? Would it make you think, wow, this is amazing?
Probably.
I mean, you got to look beyond the tech at that point, right? It's not about the tech. Now, maybe that part of it for somebody might be cool.
It would just be that you can do it whenever you want. You don't need people.
I think it would be how common it is. Yeah. So if you're in an area where, for whatever reason, live music with actual physical people and instruments is common, then maybe less so. But if this was a special occasion and music was important to you, it would allow you to have access to it at any time you wanted. And so in that context, I could see it reasonable enough.
I mean, I've
hi-fi.
never visited deep inside of Africa. You only see this stuff on TV and movies all through your lifetime.
Yeah,
it seems like they're always playing music. They're always having a party at night. whether they're praying to their gods or cooking a pig.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not too familiar with that one.
Yeah, but it always seems like in the movies there's always some dancing and someone banging on some drums or something like that.
Yeah, so maybe be disappointed with.
That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe speaker.
I mean, did you ever hear a really good those recordings that were done like Hugh Masekela?
Yeah.
Hope was always a really popular one of those song Hope, and it's like, it's got some pretty good bass in it. I've gotten some African music on CD before, and it's not the type of thing you pull out every day and listen to. But they're exceptionally good at making.
It's very dynamic.
At playing drums and in the bass. Yeah. They're good at capturing it too, So
and that's the hardest to reproduce properly.
Yeah.
To sound like a real,
drums. Yeah.
Big drum.
Yeah, or even just Congo drums or whatever the hell it is they play.
Well,
it
that's
just sounds
trouble.
Very live.
Because in that context, if that's what you're used to hearing live, then a cheap system, a cheap headphone probably would do a really poor job.
Yeah, you'd be putting this on and go, ooh, it'd be like eating fresh fish out, and then right out the ocean, and then having
fish sticks,
3 months frozen stuff. Fish sticks. Yeah, right.
So maybe you would be disappointed.
Maybe,
but to some people, a good audio system compared to having nothing could almost be like what a book does for some people.
Yeah.
It could be exploring into a world that is unfamiliar to you, something that gives you a different viewpoint or perspective. You could hear music you wouldn't normally ever hear locally.
Yeah, that's the difference.
So
is you could listen to music that you wouldn't normally be playing, or anybody or how to play. So that would be the difference.
But see, that's where the line gets blurred, because now we're really discussing technology more than we are the actual physical sound of the music.
That is kind of what technology did for us, is that it's available. You can listen to like anything you want, anytime, anywhere. Yeah. And you used to not be able to do that.
But is it hi-fi?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. It depends.
I think it's really about accessibility. You look at like the average in your general region, and if whatever you're using is better fidelity than the average by a fair enough margin, I think calling it hi-fi is within reason. But this changes quite a great deal based on your location. You could be in an area where something really cheap could be considered hi-fi to some people. Yeah. And I think what we're trying to get at, though, is it's a difficult thing to really put a measure on. And people always think that audiophiles and whatnot are snobby, because a lot of times that's how they come off. And we talked about this in the past, but without a doubt there is some of that. I think a great deal of the...
Well, I think in part because hi-fi tends to be gauged by the cost of the gear.
A lot of times, yeah.
It can be.
And then when you say, I got $50,000 speakers, you're pretty much going to consider that to be pretty good speakers, versus probably. I got a $200 pair of speakers. Right. Like, well, okay,
Doesn't always have to be the case.
It's too bad it works like that, but it kind of does in this industry. And it goes for cars and camera lenses and everything else that I'm aware of.
For the most part, if it costs more, it probably isn't much worse. It usually is leaning towards better. Usually. So
there's
that
levels.
Is unfortunate.
Yeah, well, there's scales to it.
Where, is a $2 million car better than a $1 million car?
Yeah, right. I mean, you hit a point. It doesn't really work anymore.
Yeah, at that point, it's like, it's like, well,
it's a little arbitrary.
That's more like because I can. That's why I bought it.
That happens in hi-fi as well. Yeah, for sure. A $1 million speaker isn't going to be 10,000 times better.
Yeah, and there's very few people buying them too.
Right,
might sell 2 a year.
Right.
So, but that's okay. They're filling a niche in a market that doesn't. That's what they're looking for.
I think more now than ever, people are becoming more familiar with the variances you have in accessibility and whatnot in these various products. I think people are more tolerant of both extremes now than ever. Because before, there was fewer products that were any good. There really just wasn't as many products as there are now that are competitive. You could have so many different headphone models now. And to some people, they think it's just so important to them that they have their music that this product to them really does it. It's just, for whatever they're looking for, it hits it. And to them, they would consider it hi-fi probably because it's the best music they know of.
I think it's more like higher hi-fi at that point.
Well, yeah, it's
it just keeps
sliding
going higher.
Scale. Yeah. I mean, it's like lower end hi-fi might not be as good, but it's still hi-fi.
And for majority of people, it is their hi-fi. Yeah. And it is pretty good nowadays. It is pretty
plenty
good.
of stuff you can get that's pretty decent, especially compared to where it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
I'd say really bottom line boils down to it's all in your mind.
Pretty much.
What do you like? What do you consider hi-fi? What's your limits?
Well, it seems like everybody evolves what they consider hi-fi.
Kind of like starting at the control and moving your way up.
Yeah.
Through the various
that's the thing. Even the lowest end stuff today is,
it's definitely an evolution.
Way better than that.
It's an evolution process, and it's not as simple as looking at this meter and going, "It's going to rain." Doesn't work like that.
No, not really.
Yeah.
But I think the key takeaway is everyone has a different definition. Everyone's looking for a different thing, and to some people these things matter, and others it really doesn't. So we don't need to get all snobby and on our high horses about $500,000 systems or whatever, but we do talk about expensive things, of course, on this channel a lot, and that's just simply because they're new, they're cool, they're interesting. That doesn't necessarily devalue the low-end stuff, of course. The more affordable stuff is cool. If that's the reality that a lot of people have, and if that's what's accessible to you, if that's what works for you, there's no problem with that, right? I think we all could agree on that.
Yeah, and I think it's an inspirational thing too. I mean, we talk to a lot of people that say, I wish I could afford that. And, well, you can one day if you work toward it. You can afford really anything if you work toward it. It is an inspirational thing.
Yeah, we have heard from a few people that said, I've been saving for 3 years to get a 1266, and then they finally do get it. And
that's
freaking awesome.
Yeah. Normally when you hear these things, it just seems impossible.
Yeah.
But we've had a handful of people that they said they were going to do it, and then years went by and they actually did it.
Yeah.
Which
and this happens over and over again.
Remarkable.
Yeah. Everyone's got a list. Everyone's got a short list of what they want in life, And for some people, it's cars and houses, and for others, it's
audio equipment.
Yeah. And that's cool.
It depends on your goals.
Yeah. It's a great hobby. It sure as hell ain't hurting anybody.
Yeah. But if you're happy with your $40 Bluetooth headset, that's
cool
too,
right? Yeah. It probably lives in $1 million house, though.
Well,
okay, maybe not, but but really, true. I mean, a lot of people have nice things like that, and they don't even care about audio. They just, the radio in the car is all they ever needed. So
priorities.
Yeah, it's all
that's
about
the strange thing that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of. There's definitely a lot more people than people recognize that you would look at them and assume that they're not exactly particularly wealthy, but they have multi-$1,000 headphones, or they might have a $50,000 plus headphone system. Yeah. So obviously that's something that's a priority to them, and they just dump all their money into it because they value it. It's important. So that's cool.
It is a great investment, and I think it also probably keeps a lot of people sane.
Yeah, especially
in this crazy world of ours.
Working from home and locked up most of the day.
Because you could tune out the TV. You don't need that. I mean, if you need something to entertain you, and it's not going to be television, sure as hell is a great option.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, thank you everyone for listening to us. Get jabber about this one.
Yeah.
And as always, thumbs us up if you like this. Remember to visit our store if you need any merchandise like t-shirts and pillows at
abyssstore.com.
abyssstore.com. And we'll see you next time. Take care.